Close 2018 is gearing up to be a year of probable blockbusters on the silver screen. From epic Marvel films to Lady Gaga bringing her best, it looks like there will be a lot worth seeing. USA Today: this past year was chock of huge movies, but 2018 is no slouch in that department, either, with the returning Avengers, a new Mary Poppins, young Dumbledore and, yes, Lady Gaga invading our cineplexes. Quite a few familiar faces are back, including Alden Ehrenreich's take on budding cosmic smuggler Han Solo in Solo: A Star Wars Story in theaters May 25, Ryan Reynolds' Merc with a Mouth in Deadpool 2 June 1, his mutant pals in X-Men: Dark Phoenix November 2, and a heap of dinosaurs in Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom June 22. Hey, even Dakota Johnson and Jamie Dornan finish out their erotic saga just in time for Valentine's Day with 50 Shades Freed Feb. 9. More fans pick Avengers: Black Panther as 2018's most anticipated films. Here's a sneak peek at 10 of 2018's most must-see movies. Okoye Danai Gurira, Leftem Nakia Lupita Nyong'o are of the Dora Milaje, a female fighting force in Black Panther Feb. 16. Photo Matt Kennedy Black Panther February 16. Chadwick Boseman's Wakandan King T'Challa is the masked star of the show, but he's surrounded by warrior women just as skilled as he is. Okoye, played by Danai Gurira, heads Dora Milaje, T'Challa's personal security force, while global operative Nakia Lupita Nyong'o is a war dog. She's very passionate about her work. Nyong'o says, Nakia's relationship with T'Challa is significant, she teases, and when opposing forces challenge his reign, she has to decide where her allegiance lies and what comes first. Okoye's loyalty to Wakanda and its people drives everything about this traditionalist with a wry sense of humor. It's her job to take care of it, and she takes that job seriously, says Gurira, adding that Wakanda is an astoundingly cool place. It's a world that is utterly plausible and tangible and yet a little larger than life at the same time. Jennifer Lawrence stars as a Russian spy and trained seductress, with a CIA agent as her next mission in the thriller Red Sparrow March 2. Photo Murray Close: Red Sparrow March 2. Jennifer Lawrence stars in the spy thriller as Russian intelligence operative Dominika Igorova, who fosters a complicated relationship with a CIA agent Joel Edgerton. But unlike, say, James Bond, Dominika gets pulled into this world against her will. The former prima ballerina suffers an injury, becomes the newest recruit to Sparrow School, and is trained to be a deadly seductress. I'm attracted to lonely, isolated characters on lonely, isolated journeys, says director Francis Lawrence, who also helmed 3 of Lawrence's 4 Hunger Games films. But I also really like when characters are in a dilemma where the audience can sit back and imagine being in the situation themselves. There are elements of her story that allow us into the spy world in a more personal way and not a political way. That emotional pull differentiates Red Sparrow, as does its tonal qualities. It's a bit audacious, a little perverse, a little scary and very tense. Mrs. Mindy Kaling left helps Meg Murray Storm Reed on her epic journey in the fantasy A Wrinkle in Time March 9. Photo Asushi Nishijima Wrinkle in Time March 9. Director Ava DuVernay's adaptation of the classic children's sci-fi novel casts 14-year-old Storm Reed as Meg Murray, a young girl who goes on an epic adventure through time and space searching for her astrophysicist father Chris Pine. It's a quest she isn't ready for. Meg is very timid and just doesn't feel like she's worthy. She doesn't really have any self-love, Reed says. She's doubting herself and obviously very scared. I would be scared, too. That's why 3 colorful travelers are key to Meg's mission and her blooming confidence: the kind Mrs. Which Oprah Winfrey, the wise Mrs. Who Mindy Kaling, and the grandmotherly Mrs. What's It Reese Witherspoon. Through the youngster's journey, Reed adds, she becomes one with the light in the universe to be able to connect with her father and becomes a better Meg to be able to save the world. The more dangerous elements of their VR escape also prove a problem in the real world for Samantha Olivia Cook, left and Wade Ty Sheridan in Ready Player One March 30. Photo Jaap Buton Dijk Ready Player One March 30. Steven Spielberg helped define the 1980s, and that's the nostalgic era beloved in the dystopian 2040s in his retro sci-fi fantasy based on Ernest Cline's novel. The director describes it as a cautionary tale but also an exhilarating adventure. The 80s had a refreshing lack of cynicism, and in our story, that's what people are trying to return to. Spielberg says, in the real lives, they're living in a debris field of the first half of the 21st century. His protagonist Wade Watts' Ty Sheridan escapes into the virtual reality landscape, seeking a hidden Easter egg. Ready Player One also takes social media a step further in the relationship between Wade and fellow egg hunter Samantha Cook. Olivia Cook. You get to know their quirks, but you don't know who the person really is until you meet them in the real world. So there's always that doubt, are they telling the truth about themselves? Magic Anya Taylor-Joy, Far Left Wolfsbane Maisie Williams, Cannonball Charlie Heaton and Sunspot Henry Zaga comes to the aid of Mirage Blue Hunt, on the floor in the New Mutants April 13th. Photo Claire Ferrolge. The New Mutants April 13th in launching a horror-themed franchise with young superpowered mutants. Director Josh Boone pulls more from Stephen King and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest than the operatic sci-fi of X-Men. New Mutants is a haunted house movie in an asylum setting, where 5 teenagers, sorceress Magic Anya Taylor-Joy, lycanthropic Wolfsbane Maisie Williams, propulsive Cannonball Charlie Heaton, solar-powered Sunspot Henry Zaga and psychic Mirage Blue Hunt, are held captive in a psych ward. These kids could care less about being X-Men. They're so messed up and have had such horrible things happen, they're just trying to figure out how to get out of this situation, says Boone, who based the film on the New Mutants comic books he and co-writer Nate Lee grew up with in the 80s. We just tried to pull this back and make it performance and character-driven, and more grounded and credible than X-Men movies ever are. Rocket Raccoon, voiced by Bradley Cooper, left, and Mantis Pom Clemente F. come to the aid of Thor. Chris Hemsworth, center in Avengers Infinity War May 4th. Photo Marvel Avengers Infinity War May 4th. All of Marvel's mightiest heroes heed the call in the third Avengers film. And that means never-before-seen pairings like Tony Stark, Iron Man Robert Downey Jr. fighting alongside Doctor Strange Benedict Cumberbatch, and Thor Chris Hemsworth meeting the Guardians of the Galaxy. Downey's 5-year-old son watches the opening sequence to the Guardians sequel on a loop, and now I get to tell him that I know those guys. Maybe I can even introduce him to a raccoon one day, if he's lucky, says the actor, who reprises his role for the 9th time and teases another confrontation with former friend Captain America Chris Evans. That's the hardest for me, because I look at Evans and I just want to go over and smell him and tell him he looks cool in those sunglasses when he's walking over to have lunch. And then I'm just staring daggers at him, getting mad. But even that relationship is going to take a turn. Bradley Cooper plays a country rocker and Lady Gaga is a chanteuse on the rise in A Star Is Born October 5. Photo Neil Prestone. A Star Is Born October 5. Bradley Cooper directs as well as stars in the fourth telling of this classic love story. Country rocker Jackson Maine Cooper realizes his career has peaked at the same time he falls for up-and-coming chanteuse ally Stefani Germanotta, aka Gaga. Cooper compares starring alongside the pop singer with learning how to dance with Jennifer Lawrence for Silver Linings Playbook. There's nothing better than to put two strangers in a vulnerable situation to get to know each other, the actor says. It really was a barter with Gaga. You're going to share all the music and I'm going to share everything I've learned from what I do. I completely gave myself over to her in that department. Cooper did all his own singing and went out of his comfort zone to figure out his on-screen musician. In so many ways, this is maybe the most personal performance I've ever given, but I really did escape into this guy, he says. The dark wizard Gellert Grindelwald left. Johnny Depp is recruiting followers like the mysterious Rosie or Poppy Corbichuch for his nefarious plans in Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. Photo Jaap Buitendijk. Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald November 16. The first Beasts introduced magizoologist Newt Scamander Eddie Redmayne into the Harry Potter movie universe, and the action shifts from 1920s New York to Europe in his next adventure, which debuts Jude Law as a young Albus Dumbledore. Decades before the wizard will help Harry, Dumbledore is a teacher at Hogwarts who refuses to conform to the status quo, and is passionate, mischievous and an inspiration to his young students, says director David Yates. Dumbledore sees Newt as a kindred spirit, an outsider, who is misunderstood. They recognize each other's strengths and vulnerabilities. The heroes face a formidable foe in the dark wizard Gellert Grindelwald, Johnny Depp, whose dangerous ideology involves suppressing all non-magical beings, whom he views as inferior to wizards. Yates says, he's a charismatic figure who uses his undeniable appeal to inspire others to blindly follow his cause. Directed by James Wan, Aquaman Dec. 21 marks the first solo film for Jason Momoa's seafaring superhero bad boy from Justice League. Photo Jason Boland. Aquaman Dec. 21. Justice League only dipped into the expansive undersea potential for Jason Momoa's superhero, and director James Wan follows the epic ensemble with a solo film where Arthur Curry is caught between the surface and the watery kingdom of Atlantis. He doesn't quite fit in, but as the story progresses, he realizes he's the best of both worlds, says the filmmaker. Circumstances allow him to grow as a human being and then realize the bigger picture of it all and what it means to have these abilities. Designing Atlantis has given one a chance to make something that is from our planet, but at the same time, it's a visual we're not familiar with, and HES also unleashing some seriously bad guys. Chief among them Aquaman's arch-villain Black Manta Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, whose antagonism is very primal. That classic revenge story, one adds. I love the simplicity of that human drive. Jane Emily Mortimer, Left John Nathaniel Sala, Annabelle Pixie Davies, LM Julie Walters, Jacqueline Manuel Miranda Georgie Joel Dawson and Mary Poppins Emily Blunt go for a joyride in the musical sequel, Mary Poppins Returns December 25. Photo J. Maidment Mary Poppins Returns Dec. 25 Emily Blunt acknowledges that it's hard to put in words what it's like to play author P.L. Travers' iconic nanny, though joyful and utterly magical to come up in conversation. Julie Andrews played the role in 1964, and the flying umbrella passes to Blunt for a sequel set in 1930s Depression-era London, where Poppins revisits a now-grown Michael Ben Winshaw and Jane Banks Emily Mortimer when their family needs her again. Back in the day, a spoonful of sugar helped the medicine go down, but Blunt's Poppins hews more to Travers' literary character. I just loved how eccentric and wacky she is in the books, incredibly vain and rude to the children, Blunt says. As a British person, I really responded to that lack of saccharine relationships. I find it comforting the idea of someone just sweeping in who's nonsense and cleaning everything up and making everything right again in a magical way that's not sentimental. Reader, share this story https://usat.ly2citruec